Hey, beautiful souls. I decided to spontaneously record this video doing an energy forecast, an energy report. I mean, so many people do them, right? That it kind of annoys me to even use those terms. But really, that's what it is. I received some information through the Akashic Records yesterday that, again, is relevant to all people. So it was a personal reading for somebody, and I obviously will not share any of their personal details, but the guidance that came through was pertaining to all of us. So I thought, maybe I should do a video with a real-time Akashic energy forecast to help us navigate the tumultuousness that lies ahead. So the information that came through in this person's reading yesterday that applies to all of us is that timelines are crumbling. And, it was jarring information for me to receive, although I could feel the truth of it right away and I could recognize the way that it's applying to my own life. There's no point in getting specific about it because it's going to play out differently for everybody's life, but we're moving towards a singularity. That's what came through. And so, for example, in this person's reading, the last time I connected with them for an Akashic reading, there was a pretty clear trajectory that was well established. And then just in the last couple weeks, that trajectory completely shifted, and the energy changed in a way that is almost like irreversible in a way. And of course, this all happened so fast that it was very jarring for this person, and that's why they wanted to schedule another reading just to understand, like, what the fuck, the fuck life. So when I tuned in, the information that I received was that there was nothing, this person had done nothing wrong, and the other parties involved had done nothing wrong. And I was given this, what I clearly heard was the timelines are crumbling. Timelines are crumbling. And I was given this visual of, like, on a movie or something like that, when somebody's running across a bridge and the bridge is crumbling behind them and they're just like running as fast as they can to stay ahead of that crumbling so that it doesn't end up crumbling underneath them, so they can get to the other side back onto solid ground. That's how fast things are changing right now. I hate delivering this kind of information. I'm going to be straight up because it stresses me out. It makes me feel very uncomfortable that things can move and change this fast. The human in me, the very pregnant, like going to be having a baby at the end of June, beginning of July, human in me wants nothing more than stability. So this information is not that exciting for me to hear, and yet I can feel in my whole energy field, especially with that extra acute psychic spidey sense of the pregnant, soon-to-be birthing mama who, has all of those tingly feelers out for, like, what's safe and what isn't safe, in terms of, like, dropping this little calf of mine. It's very... I can feel the truth of it and the importance of our ability to understand what this energy is and the guidance for how to navigate it, because it's so intense. So I'm in the Akashic Records right now. Before I press play, I kind of tuned in, clarified the information. And I asked, like, how long is this energy around for? And the answer I received is the next 5 weeks. So the next 5 weeks, what it feels like is the ground is shifting beneath us. The playing board is changing completely, and whole timelines are just disappearing. And what that means is that something that was totally feasible and that you were realistically manifesting is no longer available. That's what it can look like. Something that, a trajectory that seemed not, it doesn't even have to have seemed logical. We're not necessarily talking about logic, but a 3D trajectory of how our life is, was going. A lot of those are disappearing. And what is happening is that the energy of our identity, who we believe we are, is like if we had all these things around us, you can't see. I'm creating like a circle with my hands all around, like this imaginary circle that we're in, this imaginary disc. If all these things in this big wide circle around us were part of our identity, part of who we believe we are, and what's important to us, it's narrowing. It feels like it's closing in, but it's not really a trap. It's more like it's narrowing. And as it narrows, everything is crumbling and falling away. And we're coming into this like little disc of what is actually important. This little disc, I'm imagining like a disc that we're standing on, or that's kind of how it symbolically represents itself to me. So if you were standing in the center of a big circle drawn on the ground, and all of your things and all of your life and all of your identifiers fit in that circle, like my job, my salary, my relationship, my family, my friends, my neighborhood, my home, my country, my pets, all these things, my car, my interests, my physical material belongings, all that stuff. If all of that fit into the circle, now imagine the circle is just like closing in and closing in. It's getting smaller and smaller and smaller, shrinking in underneath our feet. And all of the things that fit in there no longer fit. And it's bringing us right into basically like who we truly are. This is for us. All of this that's happening has the potential. It feels stressful as fuck, okay? But it is for us. It carries a tremendous gift. It has the potential of really clarifying what's important. And anybody who's been through a really big trauma in their lives so far, like any kind of, really catastrophic diagnosis, or one of those big things, I'm just trying to think of like other examples, anything, any kind of loss, any kind of catastrophic diagnosis. One of the ways that people cope with it is to sort of clarify and realize like what their actual priorities are. It's like suddenly they feel how unimportant a bunch of the bullshit that they thought previously was important actually is. And it's kind of like that for us. I just kind of got distracted by some notifications coming up at the top of my phone. Sorry. It's the downside of using my phone to do this. Okay, so for the next 5 weeks, the playing board is shifting. The timelines are crumbling. We are coming into a singularity. And the guidance that I received on how to navigate this is to rise above the illusion. To understand that all of those things were an illusion in the first place. The energy behind them that kept them alive has long since dissipated. And we were just living out the hollow echoes of that energy. A way to understand that is to use the analogy of a relationship. You know, like relationships are really easy to use for illustrations because so many of us have been through so many shitty ones. But you know that feeling of being in a relationship and it's been over for like a while, weeks, months, years, and just nobody called it because we didn't want to, because we were afraid of what would be on the other side of calling it. And so you just keep living it out, like kind of coasting through the echo of what used to be alive and is not alive anymore, meaning there's not juiciness, there's not new vital energy, there's no growth there anymore. It's done. But you just stay in it and you keep living through it because you're afraid to call it. Both parties are afraid to call it. It's kind of like that, only it can apply to relationships, but it can apply to anything and everything. And it applies to us as a collective. And this should come as no surprise because of everything that's gone down in, that came to light last year, basically. For so many of us to realize truly how corrupt the political systems are, to realize truly how, the celebrities that we might have admired are not what we thought they were, to have realized that the entertainment that we engaged in was actually laden with propaganda and subliminal messaging for the purposes of predictive programming and controlling our beautiful creative manifestive abilities. I mean, there's so many things, right? So many ways that the illusion shattered last year. And yet, in a lot of ways, many of us are still holding on because we don't know what else to do. We don't even know who we are without those illusions. So we can let some of them go, but many of us are really struggling to release all of it. And what I'm seeing is that this illusion it ended at least in 2012. Our understanding of what 2012 was. Might not be in alignment with the Mayan calendar. I have no idea, but it's been over for a long time, and we've been living out a hollow, lifeless echo. And now the destruction isn't the right word. The crumbling of the timelines, the dispelling of the illusion is happening rapidly. And for the next 5 weeks, it's going to be really fast. So a lot of us are going to experience really intense change. And the guidance is to rise above the illusion. And the specific illusion that they're talking about, the record keepers in the Akashic Records, is the illusion that any of this has anything to do with us in the first place. The illusion that we require these things to have stability. The illusion that these things are part of our identity. I always feel like I never do a great job at explaining, because the truth that I receive in the Akashic Records really doesn't come in as words. They'll translate as words here and there to kind of make sure I'm on the right track, but it's just such a complete wordless knowing, and then I have to try and figure out how to explain it in words, and it's freaking hard, you guys. And I feel like I don't do a very good job, but hopefully you're able to receive the message through the energy of my voice and through my presence and my eye contact and my pauses and all those ways that, communication happens between and beyond the words. what they're showing me is that the ground moving beneath us and everything rapidly changing, feeling like it can feel like things are collapsing and crumbling all around us and within our lives, within us even, within us. Our bullshit stories about who we are crumbling. And that's really the scary part. That's what has us freaked out. Because ultimately, a job doesn't define you. A relationship doesn't define you. A role doesn't define you. Your material items don't define you. Your routine doesn't define you. Those are just security, comfort items that we have that, we attract or manifest for whatever reason. But then we kind of get attached to them, and then we kind of use them to bolster our self-definition, our self-identification, meaning who we understand ourselves to be. But we're so much more than that. We're so much more than generally what the majority of us believe ourselves to be. I am more than what I believe myself to be. And I do shadow work every fucking day of my life. Like, honestly, I'm so aware of who I really am, and yet I'm so much more than that. I realize it. But a lot of people are operating from a place of like totally believing that all of these, variables in their lives are, essential to their identity, and they're not at all. But the part that really scares us is the crumbling of the illusion, the dispelling of the illusion of the stories that we carry about ourselves. Because those stories they actually do define us, and yet that doesn't make them true. If somebody has a story that they're unintelligent or incapable because of a series of experiences they had right from childhood that reinforce that story, experiences with teachers at school, with maybe like being diagnosed with something at school, being humiliated, that kind of stuff, or being told that by a parent or a caretaker. That's a story that they carry that then defines the experience that they have of themselves in this life. Yet it doesn't make it true. It doesn't mean that story is true, like capital T, like divine truth, true. But it becomes real because it so deeply influences that person's perception of themselves and of the world, and how the world responds to them, and how they therefore respond to the world. Those stories are what we are really attached to. So all the material items, we're going to grieve those as they fall away or change in such rapid succession. But they won't be like, and the things like our job, our role, our job, our role, our material items, our home, that kind of stuff. Those things we will grieve, but they'll be easier to let go of ultimately, because we know that the same way it's hard to let go of a material item that, was given to you by somebody who's no longer in your life, but you lose it and you have no choice but to cope with losing it. And one of the conclusions that you eventually come to is like, oh, that object didn't carry that person. That person's energy exists in my heart and in the way that they imprinted on me and impacted me. So in that same way, we will grieve those sort of more 3D material things that crumble on these crumbling timelines. But we'll be okay. The stories, though, the stories, that's what's gonna drag us. is the stories of who we are. But the brilliant thing about this, that they're showing me the guidance of rising above the illusion, is understanding that our stability was never contingent on any of that. That our success, our effectiveness, our worthiness, our divinity has never been contingent on any of this bullshit. And we will, in fact, feel so much lighter when we no longer are dragging all these things with us everywhere we go. All these stories, all these roles, all these perceptions of self. But what I'm getting that I really wanted to share is that over the next 5 weeks, we're really not going to have a say in it. We're not going to have a choice. And even the desire to, like my brain is like, well, I might as well start getting rid of things. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But even that is like, I could feel my human brain trying to bargain. Like, if I proactively get rid of some things, maybe this won't be as hard. And yet, it's just the overall energy of what's coming. What we're already in, we're just at the tippy beginnings of it. It's the shattering of illusions very, very, very quickly on very many levels, collectively and individually. And there's nothing we can do to avoid it. And there's nothing we can do to mitigate it. All we can do is navigate it and understand that this is all, in the greater sense, this life is all a dream. Meaning that it's an illusion of perception. There is always so much more going on within this realm and beyond this realm than we realize. In real time, in the now moment. Not in the afterlife, in the now moment. And our attention is focused in on the 3D physical life and the 4D experience of time and space. So we think this is really real. And it's just part of what's real. It's just part of what's real. So we are learning to wake up in the dream. And the dream is trying to wake us up. The time has come for us to wake up. We've lived this dream out. The snooze button is going. Our alarm is running in the background. That's what went off in 2012, was the alarm. And we're just sleeping through it because we're in such a deep, heavy sleep. And the time is now to wake up. The time is now. All of this shit that's happening is for us so that we can wake up. But waking up means realizing how unimportant all of this really is. And that being said, though, what I do see is that there are things that are important and still continue to fit in that little circle that has become smaller around us. Meaning the relationships we have with the really, really, really essential people in our lives. The truth of who we actually are, our mission, our abilities, the power of our perception, the power of our intention, our soul calling to different locations. I see a lot of people moving in the next 5 weeks. Maybe longer, maybe the next 8 weeks. Because there'll probably be a continuation. This intensity will slow down after the next 5 weeks, but I see a lot of people moving in the very near future. I see a lot of the attachments that have kept us in an outdated version of ourselves very, very quickly breaking, crumbling, detaching. And it feels scary and it feels intense, but it leaves us with all kinds of room to, again, realize what actually matters to us, and some things actually do, to re-envision our lives and what we're here for, to align with our soul mission, our soul purpose, the impact that we are capable of having, the impact that we desire to have, the activation of our psychic gifts, and just more of the truth of who we really are. The truth that we find when we're awoken, rather than these illusory dreams of who we thought we were. So that's the energy forecast for the next 5 weeks. I really wasn't intending to do this one today, actually. So I don't know when I'll do the next one. I was going to try and do one regularly, but this one seemed pretty urgent and wanted to come through. So I guess I'll just pop in with another one, maybe within the next 5 weeks, maybe after, as we continue to navigate these energies. I hope this information is helpful for you. I hope I was able to use examples that are, and analogies that are specific enough. I know the information can feel very cryptic and very broad, but it's because it plays out so differently for all of us individually. But this is an accelerated period. It's like 2020. It's like all the waking up of 2020 and all the waking up that didn't happen in 2020, all condensed into a 5-week period. Good times. But we will get through it. I know we will, and I know that we will receive the gift that is being made available to us through this. Peace and love, all of my divine brothers and sisters. I will catch you on the next broadcast.